Hi, friends. I have another book to read. Keep in mind that these are just books that I have at home, so I don't have a great selection. But this one is called Flap Your Wings, and it's by P.D. Eastman. Okay, so again, here's our title page, Flap Your Wings. If we look at this picture, we can see two birds. And they kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but they kind of look like they're stressing in a hurry for something. So let's read and see what this book is about. Flap Your Wings. An egg lay in the path. A boy came down the path. He saw the egg. He looked around. He saw flamingos and frogs and turtles and alligators. Whose egg is this? He called, but nobody answered. Then the boy saw an empty nest in a tree. There's an egg without a nest, he said, and there's a nest without an egg. The boy climbed up the tree. He put the egg in the nest. Then he went away. Mr. and Mrs. Bird came home. They were surprised to find an egg in their nest. That's now our egg, said Mrs. Bird. Look at how big it is. But it's an egg, and it's in our nest, said Mr. Bird. If an egg is in your nest, you sit on it and you keep it warm. It doesn't matter whose egg it is. All right, said Mrs. Bird, but I wonder what kind of bird will come out of that egg. What do you think? What kind of bird's going to come out? It's a pretty big egg. They took turns keeping the egg warm. First, Mrs. Bird sat on it. Then, Mr. Bird sat on it. And sometimes, because it was so big, they both sat on it. One day, Mrs. Bird heard a squeaking noise. Help, she said. This egg is squeaking. Squeak, 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 squeak. Mr. Bird came back to the nest. He listened to the egg. The egg is not squeaking, he said. It's our baby that's squeaking. He is ready to come out of the egg. Mr. and Mrs. Bird waited. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The egg started to crack. Squeak, scratch, crackle. The egg crackled some more. And there was the baby. Mr. Bird was very excited. It's Junior, he shouted. What a beautiful baby. Can you see? What did the egg hatch to be? Is it a bird? No, it's a... Oh my goodness! Junior opened his mouth. It was a big mouth. It was full of teeth. That's the funniest looking baby I ever saw, said Mrs. Bird. Something is wrong. I don't think he's our baby at all. He's in our nest, so he must be ours, Mr. Bird said. His mouth is open. That means he's hungry. When your baby is hungry, you feed him. Mr. and Mrs. Bird went away to get some food for Junior. Mr. Bird brought a pink worm. Mrs. Bird brought a green worm. Junior ate both worms in one gulp. Then he opened his mouth wide again. We have to get Junior lots more to eat, said Mrs. and Mrs. Bird. Mr. and Mrs. Bird. Hour after hour, day after day, they brought food for Junior. Mrs. Bird got berries and cherries. She got butterflies and caterpillars. She got dragonflies and mosquitoes. She got ladybugs and tiger beetles. Mr. Bird got crickets and spiders. He got grasshoppers and snails. He got red ants. He got black ants. He got centipedes too. What kind of bird eats so much? Said Mr. Bird. It doesn't matter, said Mr. Bird. He's still hungry and we have to feed him. Weeks went by. Junior never stopped eating and he never stopped growing. He grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Look, he doesn't even fit in that nest anymore. Finally, Junior got so big that Mr. Bird said, It's too crowded up here. Junior has to leave the nest. It's time for him to fly away. You are right, said Mrs. Bird. The time has come. We must show him how to fly. Oh dear, do you think Junior's going to be able to fly? What do you think's going to happen? Mrs. Bird pushed and pushed. Mr. Bird showed Junior how to fly. Jump into the air like this, he said, then flap your wings. Junior got ready. He took a big breath and jumped. Up, up, up into the air he went. Flap your wings! Flap your wings! Yelled Mr. and Mrs. Bird. Junior flapped and flapped, but it didn't do any good. He didn't have wings. Down, down, down went Junior, down into the water. Splash! It was cool and wet in the water. It was just right for Junior. You know, said Mrs. Bird, I don't think Junior was a bird at all. It doesn't matter, Mr. Bird said. He's happy now. Just look at him swim. The end. This one was called Flap Your Wings. Okay, now with this book, I have a challenge for you. Do you think that with your parents' help, you could make a nest that's big enough for Junior? Remember how he outgrew his bird's nest? Could you make something that would be big enough for Junior? If you decide to take the challenge, send me a picture. I'd love to see what you come up with. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, boys and girls.